Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers. In today's video, we're looking at another small hoverbike purely because of the way the thrusters have been set up at the back and how they've been attached onto some small reactors. So just very briefly, putting my camera all the way around towards the back here, this is simply what I mean. It's just a very satisfying setup. We've got two small reactors on some flat atmospheric thrusters, where we've got a nice section at the back here, so we've got no connection points here, it just goes straight up to the back of our saddle cockpit. And all around towards the very back of this thing at the fans, we can then reach in, you can put your hands in through the moving blades, be able to put uranium inside there. Because it's just a very novel thing that I thought some people might get a kick out of. Anyway, this thing was simply titled the Airbike, and well, it has one fatal flaw, which is not too much of an issue if you are playing carefully or have driven vehicles like this before, is that it has no reverse thrust. So the way you slow this thing down after scooting around at high speeds is you have to tilt backwards or do a 180, which you can easily handle via using a script if you want to attach a programmable block onto this. Anyway, we'll come back to that towards the end of the video, just pressing F10, finding it in the spawn menu, here it is. This thing is 32 small blocks, using the Automatons, Warfare 2, Sparks of the Future, and Dagger Block number 3 DLC packs. We see here a small bit of information about it. Over to here, we can see a few instructions where it says not to bank any more than 45 degrees, or you'll start to slide and go towards the ground, as well as not to mash all the control keys because you will overload the power, and that will also bring down to the ground. And there is the final one, where it says it does not have backwards facing thrusters, so you will have to use the tilting system or a script, like I said. So anyway, we're going to give this thing a thumbs up, move around towards the very front, have a quick look around the outside, then we'll go driving around for a bit, I'll show you how this thing handles, and how to stop it. Now, bearing in mind that I do have a fancy Skybox in this world that has increased the speed limit to about 160 meters per second. It's very nice, it's very purpley, very blue, but I'll go and scoot the camera all the way up to there so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So all the way up to here, here it is, an absolute fantastic looking Skybox. There will be a link to this in the description below if you are interested in it. But yes, do bear in mind it does increase the speed limit. Back over to the Airbike, this is what we get for the very front of this thing. We've got some lovely red steel blocks using our neon skin. Below that, and on the left and right hand side, we can see our fan atmospheric thrusters, or our flat atmospheric thrusters, don't know why I keep calling them fans. Behind there, we just about make out our saddle cockpit just peeking through both those atmospheric thrusters. Moving up slightly and around onto the side, there we are, we've got some fantastic use of armoured panels, just covering up the tops of those atmospheric thrusters, as well as all the way around the edges of this, to make it very sleek, very race-like with its overall design. Looking at it on the side, there we are, there's our back armoured panel, just covering up the sides of those reactors, and thrusters to propel us around. There's a magnetic plate below us to clamp us down onto the ground, as well as to act as a little step up, get into the saddle cockpit. Then right down below there, some fantastic use of our neon tubes. Make sure when you land this thing down onto the ground, they don't slam down and damage the cockpit itself, because if that cockpit gets destroyed, everything is going to fall apart. Anyway, moving up slightly around towards the back, we see some gyroscopes to move this thing around. And then there is what we talked about at the very start of the video, with our access point for our reactors, right behind those atmospheric thrusters. Anyway, on the right hand side, next to that gyroscope, we then got an LCD screen with our license plate that says too fast. And behind there, on our magnetic plates, we see once again our neon tubes that link around towards the very front. Round onto this side, there we go. Able to move all the way up and look down this thing. There's how our armoured panel's been set up on those front atmospheric thrusters. There's our magnetic plates on the side where you can see it's sort of set up, like I said, as a step up, get into the cockpit. Then moving all the way down underneath this thing. Here we go, almost done with this. There we are, there's our neon tubes, magnetic plates, atmospheric thrusters, and not too much else to talk about. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is grab hold of my character. It's now time to hop inside. We don't really have too many controls over this, but we've only got controls for our magnetic plates and thrusters. So turning on the thrusters, disconnecting our magnetic plates, time for me to lift this all the way up, here we go. And if I was to tilt this slightly forwards, as you can see, we're going to start gaining speed. So suppose if you want to be extremely energy conscious, if you want to limit the amount of uranium you're using, you could always do this to actually propel yourself forwards instead of holding forwards on the keyboard or controller. Anyway, to stop ourselves, we need to tilt slightly backwards. So there we are, now going to come to a stop, and everything will be hunky-dory. Anyway, tilting this thing all the way to the right. Here we go, going a bit more, and there we are, that's about as far as we can go, as was stated on the Steam Workshop page. Yes, as for that, moving forwards, properly with our thrusters, this is the speed we get. So it's fairly fast, should get up to 160 meters per second very, very quickly, but coming to a stop will always be a bit of a problem with ships that don't have any kind of backwards thrusters. So in first person view, looking all the way down so we can actually see what's going on with that. And now we're going to tilt backwards, and now we can see we're at 140, 35, 30, is a lot slower and there's not too much we can actually do about this to actually make it slow down a bit quicker. If we were to spin this all the way around to 180, it would be a little bit better because you can use both the bottom thrust and forward thrust, but it will bring us all the way down to the ground and, well, could blow it up like you saw right there. So when you're hopping back into this, being a bit more sensible, and going slightly higher up off the ground. So that's something that you will need to make sure as you're approaching your base at high speed. If you're not going to keep yourself at a certain limit, which could always be a very good idea from a programmable blog, is to set a speed limit, so like a cruise control script, so you can't go too fast to limit the damage that could happen, well, what you saw just a second ago. If you are going to be driving recklessly and you want to come to a stop, make sure you got some nice height above the ground. Make sure when you are slowing down, you're not going to go slamming down and blow up the entire vehicle. Yes, as for that, that's pretty much it for all this vehicle has to offer. It's just a fun little thing with a very sleek design, and well, I do absolutely love how the thrusters can be set at the back there with those small reactors. But other than that, there's not too much else to talk about other than what you could do to upgrade this thing. So you could always attach on some guns onto this if you want to, remove those armoured panels at the side there, attach on some Gatling guns, there you got a small assault vehicle. You can always put on some small atmospheric thrusters if you want to have this thing actually slow down properly. That's entirely up to you and does kind of go against the overall design. Yes, like I said, that's pretty much it for this video. It's very short, very sweet. So be linked to the description below to download and play around yourself. Highly recommend you do, as well as a link to Skybox I'm currently using. I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.